What's up? What's happening? Mike, check. We are going live. What's up, people? Anybody here yet? Anybody? Testing? 1, 2. Anybody? We are going to have an interesting conversation today, I think. Going to talk about something I haven't talked about in a bit. What's up, Inspector? What's happening, buddy? How are things? Hello. I have one of those things too. Look. Where's he at? Where's my little hello dude? Hello. Got a couple of them. Hello. I'm going to turn my light on. Hold on. Need light. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. Fantastic. Well, how's everyone's weekend? It is Monday. It is time for a new topic. New mode of destructive thought. No, I'm just kidding. A new kind of rabbit hole to run down. Talk about transformation and defining moments. Celery Bear, what's going on? You're in a lecture. Using my headphones so can't hear clearly, but good morning. Good morning, brother. Thanks for stopping in. Hope you're enjoying your lecture. Hope it's something that you're actually, enjoy sitting in. I used to love my lectures. It was actually learned more in lectures than I thought I ever would. I know oftentimes you can not enjoy some of those lectures, but I actually enjoyed mine. Thank you, Eaton Corp, for your sponsorship of today's stream. Guys rock. I love every part of what Eaton Corp does and how you guys are willing to help little groups like us do the work that we do every day. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So, who here has a defining moment? Who knows what a defining moment is? I think that's a great, logical first question. So I think we should probably start there at some point and probably chat about what each of us sees as defining moments. Sees what each of us, kind of, good and bad. I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people see defining moments purely as good things. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Jamode, 3 months. Welcome back, kiddo.
Everything's great.
Oh,
Everything is awesome.
Jamode, you gotta love the OG Pickle resub sound. Tell me you love it, please. Everything's great. Everything is awesome. I love the OG. Guys, if you have not followed OG Pickle yet, I know all these people here have, so I'm not even going to say it. It's great. Everything is awesome. I could just test widgets all day long just so I could hear OG Pickle say that over and over again. I'm thankful to that man for allowing me to use that soundbite. He doesn't understand exactly. I don't think he quite understands how many clips of him I actually have. Yeah, no problem, Jamode. How many clips I actually have of him. Like, literally hundreds of clips I have. I have to be probably his number one clip master. Pardon me. So, my weekend was quite eventful. I told you guys about last week how I almost killed myself on the highway. Decided to try and do donuts at 80 miles an hour, well, 70 probably, but that was fun. I learned things about myself that I didn't think were possible, like, that I can do that stuff without fearing entirely for my life. So, and that I, at 70 miles an hour in reverse, that I can look over my shoulder and calmly back my car into a ditch. Like literally looking over my shoulder, back it up. Dear Lord, help me. But it was, not fun. I don't recommend it. So today we are going to talk about a transformed you. What that means for each of us. Some of us have done it. Some of us have crossed a bridge already where we've had things happening to us that we're not happy or satisfied with. So we've decided to, kind of change the trajectory of our lives a little bit and move in ways that maybe we didn't think earlier were possible, or maybe we were even forced in a way through legal action that helped us get to a place that, we didn't think was possible for us at another point in our life. For example, take my own personal life, because that's, why I'm here, to talk about me. I'm kidding. I don't want to talk about me, but I do on occasion. Early in my life, I was a deviant young man. In my preteen years, I was always in trouble doing something I probably shouldn't be doing, or various things like that. And at some point, through legal means, my attitude was changed slightly by getting arrested and put through the court systems as a preteen in the juvenile system. I learned that, doing that kind of stuff doesn't really, benefit you when you think about things like freedom. I'm just going to say, if you like your freedom, don't break the law. And I learned that lesson, thankfully, early on, and I stopped doing things that would, inhibit my freedoms, shall we say. So sometimes it happens through outside intervention. Sometimes it happens through your own inward cognitive thought where you're like, you know what, this just sucks. I'm sick of X, Y, Z, so I'm going to do something different. So transformation sometimes comes from within, where you cognitively yourself decide, I'm going to take a different path. In Celebrate, you're a prime example of someone who is cognitively taking a different path right now, where you're going to school, you're getting an education, you're sitting in lecture today, even though you're watching my stream. Thank you. But at the same time, you're doing it because you're cognitively trying to transform who you are. You're giving yourself the opportunity to do something that you otherwise would not be able to do. Because if you didn't go through this exercise of academic rigor, i.e. university or college, or trade schools for that matter, you might not be in a position where you can, pursue whatever path you're looking to pursue. And honestly, where you're in a position to help people the way you have, though. We talk about it all the time, the streamers that you've bumped into and that you've been so generous with. So it's one of those things for guys like me, as we, as at Rise Above, we work with all of these students who are in what we would call defining moment type situations, where they're at a pivotal point in their life where they have to decide, am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? Am I going to go straight? Heck, am I going to go in reverse? Because, we often say, when in hole, stop digging. Very logical, seems like a very simple statement to make, but it's very often people don't understand how if you're in trouble, you can't put yourself in a position to understand how you can do something different, because you're so surrounded by chaos. So very often defining moments for people that are trapped in chaos, it comes from a third-party person. It comes from somebody else stepping into your life and saying, hey, stupid, smack you in the head and say, get your head on straight, or hey, look at what's in front of you, because you're too busy dealing with the chaos to get you there. Expecting a child at 17 changed my life? I bet it did. And for Veronica, my wife, and I, same boat. We weren't quite 17. We were 19 and 20. But expecting a child that young takes a hold of you, grabs you by the ears and says, hey, you got some responsibility here that, you didn't have yesterday. That's a defining moment where a little out of your control, a little part of your responsibility. You're just saying, you had an act in there. But at the same time, it's really is something where, pardon me, where you didn't expect it. I doubt that you planned for that at 17 years old. I'm going to guess you probably didn't. But anyways. So when we talk about transformation, there are two types of transformation. There's a transformation that, you kind of have control of. Like I said, I doubt at 17 you planned for that. So I'm going to come back to that, Inspector. So don't let me straggle too far down the line here. But I want to talk about the define transformation for a second. So there's two, maybe three types of transformation. Depends how we want to run this rabbit hole. The type that you plan on, like Cellar Bear going to school. He's planning to go to school. He goes to high school, gets his diploma, applies to he's doing functional things to bring about transformation. He's going through processes. He's putting applications in. He's paying copious amounts of money to get these degrees and to get this education, right? So he's doing things intentionally to transform his life. And then there's the transformation that happens that is unplanned, that is incidental or accidental even to our everyday, like Inspector Gadget, having a child at 17, having a child at 19, like my wife and I did. Unplanned, 100%. Did it transform my life? 100%. Still, you have transformation. It's what you then have to look at what your mental, physical, and emotional state is at that point to determine what type of transformation it's going to be. Is it going to be a transformation where you grab a hold of it and you're able to angle that thing in a way that it bears fruit for you? Or is it going to be transformation? And this happens a lot, especially with our example of the underage having kids very young. You have people that's catastrophic. That's catastrophic. It's transformation, but it's catastrophic transformation, where you're getting to a point where you're not prepared emotionally to take on a newborn baby, where you're not prepared financially to take on that newborn child, or any number of things. Maybe your surrounding family, your support mechanisms, the people that were there for you yesterday are now not there for you today because they feel as though this is a transformation that they're not okay with. Think about that now. How many families have abandoned their sons and daughters because they've had children either out of wedlock or extremely young? I'd be curious, Inspector, to see what your perspective on that is, to see, I'd love to know, was your family supportive of that for you? Once they realized, I'm sure they weren't necessarily supportive in the sense of they told you, yeah, go ahead and have a child at 17. But once they realized that was happening, did they come alongside you and say, yes, we want to ensure that you and this child have the best life possible? So, those are real things. Because if you have support, when you're going through transformation, part of the thing that I want to talk about today is this idea of transformation and us having support mechanisms to do the hard work of transformation. And I say hard work because whether you plan it or not, it's hard. It's never easy to transform. And I'm going to use the butterfly analogy at some point to talk about this, but it literally, transformation is about becoming something different. And I'll weave some weightlifting in there, I'm sure, at some point too. But at 21, I was a single father raising my son. Oh, brother, come on now. Mother was making poor choices and you had to step up. Well, first I want to say, Inspector, that is awesome that you were man enough to do that you did step up and do the right thing in that situation. Because I can tell you far too often, particularly the populations that we work with here at Rise Above, where the dad does not. And it's catastrophic. Not having sons, especially, and daughters, not having dad in their life is just, it's not good. Your mom kicked you out. It's one of those things where the fact that you had anybody support you after that fact is awesome. I'm glad that you had somebody surround you. What's up, Self? To wrap around you in that moment and literally raise you, because you're 17. Or 12 in this case, and put you in a spot where you could be successful. Obviously, you've got some moral grounding in the sense that you knew that abandoning your son was not okay. That you knew it was the right thing to do. So when we talk about transformation, so we need to have the real conversation about how transformation is destructive. It literally is the tearing down and then building back up of Welcome back, Shimode. You missed all the best parts of the individual, of the person, when you transform, you're going from one place to the next. And I say place in a figurative standpoint. You could be changing modes, you could be changing appearance, you could be changing attitude, any number of things. But either way, transformation is getting from here to there. And it is either discarding one thing for something new, like clothing. It could be that I'm going to get rid of these shoes and put on these shoes instead. It could be when you talk about personality, or take physical for a second. To go from my out of shape self to something that resembles more something in shape requires a transformation. It requires really painstaking, in some cases, work. There's risk of injury. There's pain involved with lifting heavy weights or doing windy type, cardiovascular exercises that are inherently not easy. They are stressful. And whether you're doing something physically, emotionally, or externally, right? I'm going to change my physical location, my home. I'm going to go from Michigan to Indiana or something to that effect. It requires effort. Question 2, how much effort? Well, think of change that you've had. Changing your shoes. How much effort does that take? I'm going to go from running shoes to dress shoes, or from dress shoes to running shoes. Not a whole lot of effort, right? But if you're saying today, if normally I have a kind of a cranky, piss poor attitude, if you're saying today I'm going to be intentional, and when I normally get into work and I'm cranky and I got a mood on my face and everybody knows it, if I say today when I walk in the office, I'm not going to have that mood, that I'm going to intentionally try to express myself in a more positive way. And again, I'm going to use big, broad brushstroke pictures today. I've only got 2 hours, right? So we've got to think, very openly. If you guys want to dive deep on something, stop me, right? Poke the bear a little bit and say, hey, no, I want to camp here for a second and to get into this picnic basket a little bit, because there's some goodies in there that I want to pick out. But so don't be afraid to do that. But I think from the standpoint of the transformation piece, it's just getting the basic understanding of it starts with you. It's something that you initiate, where you have to decide to not do this thing and to do this thing instead. Or to not go to this place and to go to this place instead. Like very often, and take an alcoholic, for example. An alcoholic who, on his way home from work, every day stops at the bar, has 3 or 4 drinks, 5 or 6, 7 or 8 drinks, and then goes home to his wife and kids, or her husband and kids, or whatever. That person has to decide one day to take a different path home. And when I say different path, I don't necessarily mean go around the block. I mean literally not make the right-hand turn into the bar. Right? You've got to decide to go a different way. It can literally be that, but but everything starts with your decision. Even if somebody comes up to you, grabs you by the shoulders and says, you need to stop doing blah, 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 or you need to start doing blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter how hard I shake you. It's still a decision you have to make. And I literally just had this discussion with a student this morning. I framed it around this idea of micromanagement. Because you know me and this whole trust thing. Trust is everything to me, right? If I don't get you to a place where you can trust me, I don't have any influence over you. Because if you don't trust me, you're not going to listen to me. This idea of, if you have a coach and you think your coach is not doing things to make you a better athlete, you're going to look for a new coach. You're going to be like a Toronto Maple Leaf fan who never sees a Stanley Cup again because, you're just never putting together a good team. You get to a point where if you keep making bad decisions and you stay stuck in your decisions, i.e., you never try and change your pattern of thinking, if you never try and change your, the emperor's new clothes type thing, where you never try and change your personhood necessarily. You don't have to become a different you. You just got to change your perspective. Don't deny who you are, but at the same time, don't lie about who you are either. I can't tell you how many times I have that conversation with people. But what people don't realize is they sit there. Let's back up from transformation for a second, because this is an integral part of this conversation. When you back up and you look at the hurt and the pain and the angst in your life, why is so-and-so always angry with me? Why is so-and-so, I'm trying to get them to like me and they don't like me, or whatever it is. I'm going to bet, take the work environment. I'm going to bet that if your boss doesn't like you, it's probably because he doesn't trust you or she doesn't trust you. I'm going to throw it out there. You probably did something along the way where your boss said, you know what? I just don't think I can leave you alone. So when you do that thing, that task that I assigned to you, I'm going to make sure I'm around. And raise your hand if you like being micromanaged. Not this guy. I hate it. Because somebody hovering over me as I'm doing a task, all that says to me is you don't trust me. And when I feel as though you don't trust me, it drives me bonkers. It unsettles me, so to speak. Because it's if you're just going to hover and micromanage my work, it's this passive-aggressive way of saying, I think you suck. Yeah, it drives me nuts too, Inspector. It's a very passive-aggressive way to say, I don't trust that you're going to do it the way I told you to do it. It's this passive-aggressive way of saying, I'm too afraid to fire you. You do an okay job, but I just really got to stay close to you, because if I don't, you're probably gonna do it wrong. Or I'm afraid you're gonna steal from me or something. And so as I was talking to one of my students today and talking about this idea of trust, and if you think your mom nags on you a lot for your being where you're going, who you hanging around with, and all that kind of stuff, it's probably because you've done something along the way to demonstrate to her that she can't trust you. And so she's micromanaging everything where you're going, who you're hanging around with. And so the goal for you then is to transform that thinking, is to get her to a place where she can trust you again. And that is not her that needs to be transformed. That's you. She will also transform, but that's not going to happen until you transform. You've got to get to a place and in a habit of doing things that are trustworthy. Again, I'm going to add this word intentionally so that in time, people can start trusting you. And I say again. Why do I say again? Who's heard the phrase, you've got to earn my trust? Right? People say it all the time. Oh, you got to earn my trust. Can I tell you now that's a load of crap? I already earned your trust. That's why you're even talking to me. Yeah, I'll come back to that in a second, Jamo. That's a great point. So I'm going to tell you now, we all start with trust. We don't earn it. We all start with it. We lose it. And I've talked about this on stream before. But, some of you are new, so I've never said it before. We all start with trust. Until I say something on this stream or in other streams somewhere for you all not to trust me, you're going to trust me. You've already given it to me implicitly. I didn't earn it. I already had it. I just didn't do anything for you to take it away from me. And we do it all the time. We do it on the road when we drive with other people we don't even know. right? As we're going to red lights and stuff, we trust each other. We have to, otherwise society doesn't work. Until somebody runs a red light and you see that red pickup truck run a red light, every time you see that red pickup truck or any red pickup truck, you're automatically going to think that guy's going to run a red light. Why? Because you suddenly start thinking, I don't trust red pickup trucks. Because a red pickup truck did something to take away the trust that you had already given them. You with me? And we do this every day. So every student that walks in the front door, the first thing I say to them to break that misnomer of, hey, I got to earn your trust, is, hey, guess what? I trust you. Why do I trust you? You showed up. You arrived. You came in the front door. We do it all of the time. And if you inherently start with mistrust, it's because somebody that resembles them personality-wise, looks, actions, something was a trigger to say, I don't trust you. Because you already have something in your brain from before. Has nothing to do with that individual. It's the red pickup truck thing. Because another red pickup truck somewhere else cuts you off, you're going to distrust all red pickup trucks. So know that that is not a red pickup truck issue. That is a you issue. You have a trust issue. So, Jamo, let's talk about this. It's also important for the other person to give you opportunities to trust and learn. So this steps back from the red pickup truck because you're not going to convince that person. So this is a familial. This is a friend. This is a coworker. So I agree with you, but it still starts with you, where you have to start demonstrating to that person that they can crack that door. And that's one of the hardest things to do. And it usually, and I try and convince people to go out of their way to have a conversation with a person that they perceive doesn't trust them. And to be open and honest, to say, again, be open and honest. To say, I perceive that you don't trust me. I perceive that there is something that I need to do to help rebuild this idea of trust. And that should be, depending on the person, that should be the gateway to, but then you have to be, Jamode, and why everybody, that if you have that conversation, you better be ready to do the things. Because if you say that, and then don't do the thing, you're stuck. You've just hammered another nail in the coffin of trust. You think there are people that start off not trusting, and that gets back to, that's because you've been cut off by another red pickup truck somewhere before. So it has nothing to do with the person. You're gun shy because you know what? That thing happened before. So I'm just going to assume that all people that drive red pickup trucks are jerks, and they're going to cut me off. That's where that thing comes from. Right? It's not necessarily inherent to the person that you're not trusting. So how do I deal with a person that starts off not trusting anybody? Being trustworthy. Jamo, there's nothing you can do. Because you're trying to convince people that red pickup trucks, not all red pickup trucks are bad. That's like me saying, again, I'm a hardcore Christian, right? I'm an ordained pastor, for crying out loud. That's like me trying to convince you that all Christians are great people. Well, no, that's not true. Right? So I've got to start first by living my life in a way that represents what that looks like. Somebody very wise once said, just because you hang out in a chicken coop all day doesn't make you a chicken. Listen to that. Just because you hang out in a chicken coop all day doesn't make you a chicken. This goes for Christians. Or anybody else, the streamers. There are people that stream that should never be streaming. Maybe this guy, I don't know. You tell me. And Nick, you're not allowed to laugh at that stuff. You know? There are Christians that sit in pews every Sunday that call themselves Christians, but they're not. Just because you sit in a church on Sunday doesn't make you a Christian. Sully Bear, I think there are two modes. One, start and fully trust you, and then lost trust when you do. But yeah, exactly. And one, start from when you trust, then you, yeah. But again, that's it. Both of them. I will say this. There's a caveat to that. At some point, and this is a topic I've talked about before. There is a point in our lives where people start to lose trust. And I back it up to this reference. And we're kind of going a little bit all over the place, but it's good. It'll track. And this gets to the defining moments piece now. Defining moments are good and bad. They're not just all good. Defining moments are those things in our lives where something pivots. It's a defining moment where we cement something in our mind about I like or I dislike something, or I trust or I distrust, or I see this as helpful and I see this as not helpful, or beneficial and not beneficial. That's what a defining moment is. It's where we shift something in our mind to say that going forward, this is how I'm going to respond to this thing from now on. Right? So when we're kids, and I'll use my life as an example, my dad, who didn't have custody of my brother and I, was supposed to pick us up every Sunday. Sunday at 11 o'clock, my dad was to show up at our front door and pick my brother and I up for the day, just till like 5 o'clock, just till dinner, and then have us home so that we could spend a day with our dad once a week. My dad rarely picked us up at 11 o'clock. He was always late. And if he wasn't late, a quarter of the time, he just wouldn't show up. Not only would he not show up, he wouldn't even call and say, hey, guess what? I'm not coming today. He just wouldn't show up. But yet, every Sunday, for years, we'd sit there with bated breath till 11 o'clock, counting down. Okay, Dad's going to turn the corner in 3, 2, 1. And wait, no, it's okay. We're going to count to 10. Okay, 10. And we would do this every Sunday. When we know most of the time he's never there. But there was no defining moment yet. We were too young and too immature to realize probably shouldn't trust that. But there was a point in my life when my dad would pick us up, and we'd pick us up, oh, like nothing ever happened. We'd give a big hug. Oh, I missed you so much. Oh, so good to see you. I love that you pick us up on Sundays. So let's go have some fun. Sorry if I talk fast sometimes. But there's a point as I got older where that little light bulb went off and said, I don't know. I just had a little transformed defining moment here where, sorry, Dad, I don't trust you. I don't trust that you're going to show up on time. And I stopped hugging your leg when you did show up. Instead, I just give you a little look and say, you're freaking an hour late. There's a pivot that happens in us. And it's the same thing that happens once we call it the honeymoon phase, whether it's in a relationship, personal, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, in an employer-employee relationship. There's the honeymoon phase where we're, oh, silly little mistake. Oh, that you're just learning. Oh, that's okay. But after 3 months, you're like, dude, seriously, get your crap together. That's not how it works. I said 9 o'clock. You got to be here, buddy. It's 10 after 9. And that honeymoon phase gets over, and suddenly, it's almost like when we're a kid, we're willing to tolerate it because we're so enthralled, we're in love, so to speak. And then once we understand that that's a normal habit, when you cognitively understand that that is a normal habit of an individual, you tend to not be so willing to forgive. And that's where trust goes away. Right? What are you saying? Some people don't trust or won't trust you because of the very first impression they got from you. And again, that first impression is based off of past experience. So you need to understand, again, you've experienced a red pickup truck before. So when you walk in the room, they may see you as that red pickup truck. Understand that. Right? So it could be your political preference. Sadly, could be your religion, your age, sex, race, creed, you name it. It could be anything that's a trigger for somebody. Male, female, the sound of your voice. Think of it. Think of the person you have the worst relationship with, where you just hear their voice and you go, ugh, can't believe they just walked in the room. Why do I have to walk in the room? I just wanted to have a good day. Sorry, hit the mic. And then somebody that just sounds like them walks in the room and it's a trigger for you. Right? This is what I'm saying. At some point, this thing is something you have to get control of. Because that person's always going to walk in the room. They don't know. Even if you tell them every day, they're going to do it. Just some of them are going to do it just because they want to do it. They want to be that pain in your backside. Some people might be oblivious to it. They may not even know that you see them that way. Because God knows the other people that drive red pickup trucks on the highway don't know that you see red pickup trucks that way. Unless you have a bumper sticker that says, I hate red pickup trucks. You've got to... One of the hardest things when we talk about transformation is coming to the reality that you have to first decide to do something. And the best thing you can do is then to vocalize. Talk about it. Go to that one person that you do trust and say, look, this is what I'm doing. Hold me accountable. And every Monday, today, before this stream, I have exactly that conversation. I have a guy that I've been meeting with for years. Every Monday, we go for breakfast. And we are each other's accountability partner. We say each other, you're being stupid, or hey, man, you're doing awesome. Stop it. Stop being awesome. No, stop being stupid is what I meant to say. But you have to first decide. And then once you decide, right? Once you say, okay, I've identified this thing. I don't like it. I want it to change. I hate those people. Those people hate me. I don't like that feeling. I want to be a more likable person. I don't know what you would call it. And once you do that, honestly, that's 50% of the battle's done. It's making the decision and then voicing it. And I would say that voicing is probably 80% of that initial that you've got to put into it. But once you voice it to somebody, and it's out there, and I'll give you an example of how I've done this recently. Once you get it out there, then you have a whole slew of accountability people, because everyone's going to say, hey, I thought you were doing that thing. So I'll give you a couple of examples of how I've used that in the past so that I can't back out of something that I've said I was going to do. So 10 years ago, the 10th year? We're in our 10th year. Yeah, so just finished our 9th. I said to somebody back in Canada, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go to school in the States. I think I'm going to quit my job that I just started 3 months ago, and I'm going to go get a degree at a university in America. And everybody said, you're crazy. But once I said it, I would have looked like a goof if I didn't follow through on it. I had an instant accountability partner. I couldn't back out because I said I'm doing it. And if in my mind's eye, because I seek to be trusted, if I backed out, I would have breached that trust unless I had a reasonable excuse. And I didn't. I didn't have a reasonable excuse as to why I wasn't doing the thing I said I was going to do. And then most recently, I've been telling people publicly, including in the media, on radio and television, and on our Facebook and every other social media platform we have, that we're opening a Grand Rapids location in Michigan, in a little town called Jenison. If I never do that, I've literally breached the trust of thousands of people who I've said on social media and on media in general and in face-to-face conversations. Again, I just said it this morning to the guy I was having breakfast with, that we're opening in Grand Rapids. Yay for us. Now I got to do it. And people believe me when I say it. Why? Because I make a point of doing what I say I'm going to do. Transformation. What transforms in nature? So let's take a look at that for a second. I think probably the easiest transformation to consider is a butterfly. Right, so you got a caterpillar, does its thing, eats a bunch of plants. At some point decides, you know what? I'm sick of being a caterpillar. I want to be a butterfly. So what does it do? It literally kills itself. Goes into a cocoon, right? Goes into some reflective time. It's a joke. It's not actually reflecting on anything. And then it goes through this process of transformation. It goes from a caterpillar, which I still don't understand. It's just nature boggles my mind. And it comes out a butterfly or a moth or whatever they decide to be. But the concept's the same. We do literally the same thing when we decide to transform. When we decide to transform. Say it grammatically correct. Where we'll be sitting there and we have to decide. And it's usually in some reflective time. Where we're one day just eating away, being a fat slob, just grabbing as much as we can because we're consumers. North America, yay. Western society. And then we got to decide one day, you know what, I'm a little tired of being just a consumer all day long. So that usually, when you just make that decision, I'm telling you, you will go into a very quiet, reflective state. Very rarely is it a dramatic thing when it's instituted by you. Transformation, that is. Usually it's something that hits you because of something that's whatever happened. And you just have one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh. And it usually slaps you into a state of quietness. And then from there you decide, all right, I'm tired of being this. I want to be that. I've got to do it. I'm sick of being poor. I'm sick of being miserable. I'm sick of being whatever I'm sick of being. And then you go down this road of transformation, where you start doing things bit by bit, or maybe wholesale all at once. Depends on your personality. To become something different. Right? You start doing things that turn you into a butterfly. So what's the difference between a butterfly and a caterpillar? In your eye. Not nature's eye, but your eye. Caterpillars are scary things. They're the things that come along. They eat constantly. They look scary to touch. Most of them are just like look mean. They have lots of like warning things on them to make it so birds don't eat them. And so people, what do? Typically? Stay away from them. You don't see people wanting to pick up caterpillars, and rarely, unless you're one of those kids, right? They do things to keep you out. Difference with us is often we do it intentionally or not intentionally, whereas they're doing it intentionally. They look a certain way, right? Yeah. And so was Ajimode. But mine was intentional. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be the kid that everyone liked, but I didn't realize that the stupid things I was doing was pushing people away. But then something happens. After the transformation, you turn into a butterfly. And who doesn't love going to one of those butterfly house things? And a butterfly landed on me. Ooh, it tickles. Oh, it's so cute. Look at this little thing go out and lick the nectar. Everyone wants to touch the butterfly. Everyone wants to look at the butterfly. Butterflies seem so soft and lovable and all that kind of stuff. But again, that's the analogy. When you turn into this, when you transform into somebody who has an outward appearance of trust and, pardon me, suddenly everyone is drawn to you. Sometimes you don't know it's stupid until you've done. Yeah, and that, Celery Bear, that gets back to that thing that, I talk about this a lot with people. Because I got fired from a job one time. My boss said, well, you kept doing this thing over and over again. Well, I'm like, yeah, you never told me not to do it. You don't, and this is the concept there, Celery, is you don't know what you don't know. If I don't know that it's wrong, because no one's ever told me, I've never read somewhere, or I didn't understand the law, that was wrong to do that. If there's no posted speed limit where it says 45 here, and I keep doing 60 down here, and you give me a ticket, how am I at fault for that? But sometimes people have expectations of us. But again, that's that whole thing, right? Where just because I trust red pickup trucks doesn't mean the person I'm trying to impress likes red pickup trucks. So it's a bit of, hey, Soggy, what's up, buddy? So, I mean, this is what we're up against, is this idea of you're trying to get to a spot where everybody sees you as this dangerous kind of hazard to their lives. They don't trust you. There's just something about, if I touch you, I'm just afraid it's going to be bad, Get you to a point where people see you as this butterfly where they're like, oh my gosh, that thing is beautiful. It looks so soft and fuzzy. All right. Soggy cheered. Push-up thing is still a thing. It's still a thing, buddy. And yes, you, sir, will get the Dono Cam. 2 seconds. The point is to get you to a place where everybody sees you as the butterfly and not that creepy little, squirmy little, what's it called? I'm going to do the Dono Cam even though it wasn't 500 bits because I got to test it. I moved a bunch of stuff. My studio's been a mess the past celery. My studio's been a mess because I've been trying to install these 18 computers here at Rise Above the past couple of weeks, and my studio is the kind of my workstation as well for installing. All right, celery. You're hilarious, bro. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. You're awesome, dude. All right, let's see if Dono Cam works. I don't know if any of the audio is going to work. I don't know if anything's going to work. I don't know if the camera's even lined up. I suck. I'm sorry. But we're going to do it. So what did we say? It's now 20. Where's that thing? Use your mode. Want to see Risk do push-ups? 500 bits will get you 20 push-ups. All right. Let's give it a go. Dono Cam. All right, I got the mic on too, so hopefully you guys got to count for me. I'm getting too old for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I did an extra couple. You gave 200 extra bits. I wanted to give you a little extra just because I'm that kind of guy. Whew. I gave you some extras there, Soggy. Because you gave an extra 200 bits. I threw an extra 10 in there for you because I'm that kind of guy. All right, what do we got? Something happened. I'm out of wind. I'm getting too old. I didn't skip leg day, so I'm happy. I tell you, one of the hardest things, I was kind of gone all week last week. So I literally missed 4 days in the gym. I went back to the gym on Friday. Oh man, what a rough weekend. I was so sore. I made the mistake of doing upper body on I don't know why. On Friday when I went in, and all weekend I was just like, I was dying. Just dying. So Let's see. All right. Soggy, you need to stop it. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Why is that guy so big? That all right. What's going on there? You gotta look at that. Celery, I'm telling you right now, we had a joke about that before where I said, what do I do if somebody gives 1,000 bits or something like that? Then what? I spend a whole stream doing push-ups. Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen one day. Some guy will come along and I'll have to spend I'll probably do it at the end of the stream or something like that. Do the 20 and then I'll spend the last 15 minutes in the stream because I can do about 100, 150 push-ups in a row, no problem. So I'd have to laugh. So, Soph, what are you saying? Merci. Soggy, don't talk about my muscles, buddy. It's not nice. So here's the story. I was a female coworker. She was 20 years older than me. We had the very same role, but she expected from me to follow every order. Superiority, gotta love. I'm telling you, this is the essence of micromanagement. So understand, Soph, what you're up against. So I'm gonna add some insight to this in a second because some of you may or may not know my past is not in nonprofit world. I'm actually a business guy by trade, VP of operations for things like Coca-Cola, Weyerhaeuser. I've had thousands of employees over the years, so I know people really well when it comes to business stuff and why managers do stupid things. First, she started being cold with you. Then she started to harass me by analyzing every move I would make, report mistakes to the manager. My very first serious job experience, innocent boy with Christian education, I was like, if I'm kind of someone that person I want to be, but everything she would take it as a personal attack. Yeah, I know exactly what's going on already. I know exactly who she is. I could literally name people that bring the camera to the gym. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Shmode. I've got to post the workout of the day, workout of the week on Discord. Thank you. She'd take it as a personal attack. At first, I was in total denial of being harassed, and I was trying to minimize the situation by because I hate having arguments, and I'm lost. Yeah. And then I started questioning myself. What should I do to change? What am I doing wrong? So if there's two things. One, you're right to go introspective for a second to say, okay, I need to make sure that I am in fact doing the right thing, that I am in fact doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing my job correctly. So that's a clear sit down and ask somebody, hey, Jim, I just want to make sure my job is XYZ. This is how I'm doing it. Is this the correct way of doing it? And just verify. There's nothing wrong with that. Most bosses would actually appreciate you coming in. Most bosses would actually come and appreciate the fact that you would come and just say, you know what, this is my standard operating procedure for my job. Am I doing? I think I'm following it correctly. I just want to make sure and have them verify. If the answer is yes, great, I'm doing my job properly. If the answer is no, make corrections and then go from there. And that's kind of what. So she might have been right. She might have been wrong, right? So by looking at your procedure for your job, you would know. I'm going to guess you were doing the job right. That's the premise I'm going to work on. The next part of that is, I'm going to give you my 8th grade teacher as an analogy. So in the 8th grade, and I've told this story before. I've talked about her. In the 8th grade, I'm not going to say her name. I had a teacher pull me out of class angry. I mean, I don't mean like Fernandez outside. I mean, literally grab me and pull me out of the classroom, slam me against the wall, and tell me, you're going to be a loser for the rest of your life. You're never going to amount to nothing, you know? And she made some reference to my brother and how she thought my brother was a loser too. The reality there is, and I learned this much later in life, is that shortly after that 8th grade year for me, she had a nervous breakdown. She went through a divorce, bouts with suicide, and other things of that nature. So she was experiencing things outside of me that was causing my experience with her to be negative. That could be part of it. She might be having a bad experience at home. And I've talked about employees in the past. Very bad. Welcome back, Shimon. I've had very bad employees in the past where I'm actually in the process of, I got a "you're fired" note in my drawer waiting for this guy to screw up one more time because I just want him gone so bad. And then I finally get the opportunity to fire him. I sit him down and then my heart says, ask him what's wrong. And so I ask him what's wrong, and this grown man starts crying in my office and then starts telling me about how his wife's cheating on him, his daughter's pregnant, his son's a drug addict, and blah, 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 all this stuff. So you can't... I learned that I couldn't always assume that this person's negativity towards me, because this guy was an absolute jerk towards me at work, never did what I asked him to do, always fought me on every little thing. And I assumed he just hated me. The reality was his life was miserable outside of work. And work, although it was an escape for him, every time I responded to him with any sort of negativity, correction, or whatever the case is, because he wasn't a productive employee. Emotionally, he was one of the worst guys to be around. But the reality there is he was that way because of external things. It wasn't necessarily me. It was, you get my point so far? But it also might be, so you might have come in after, you might have replaced somebody she fired. And the person she fired beforehand was miserable. Just the worst. And always talked back, called her all kinds of names, just horrible employee to the point where she finally fired him. And then you poor bugger, got to replace that guy. And guess what? If you did anything that even remotely resembled that guy, a phrase you used, the way you did a certain task, the cologne you wore, literally anything that you did that resembled that guy, she's automatically going to see you in the light of him. Even if you're the best employee, the nicest guy in the room. To her, you're that guy. And it's likely that you're going to get treated like that guy. And I'm going to guess that's what happened. Because she didn't trust him, because she saw you as a red pickup truck. If you were there for that conversation, that analogy. Because she got cut off by a red pickup truck before. You came in and you're just another red pickup truck. And you're going to do the same thing again. So you know what? I'm going to micromanage you. I'm going to hover over top of you. Transformation in that instance might be, thank you, I'm going to go find a new job. That might be a defining moment for you where you realize, hey, you know what? I learned something about people today. Right? So Soph, there is no one answer where I'm going to say, yeah, that's what was going on in that instance. And it might be completely out of your control, Soph. It might be something where you really don't, it's just, as Shimon said, it's a sucky situation. You could do the best job in that situation and she's still going to treat you like garbage. Or he, whoever your boss was. I think you said it was a she. You catch what I'm saying, bro? So the imperative there is, how long am I willing to tolerate it? A, am I willing to tolerate it? And then if you're not willing to tolerate the hovering and the kind of the constant questioning and micromanagement, what then am I willing to do about it? Right? Am I willing to go and talk to her and say, look, this is what I'm perceiving. I really want to get to a place where you trust me as an employee, where I value you and your input as a manager, and where we can have this mutual win-win situation where the company excels because we excel. Because as a boss, my goal was always to have amazing employees. I was okay. What's up, man? Main Panic. As a boss, I was okay with being the second best employee. Why? Because if my employees were number one, were amazing, it inherently made me look like a spectacular manager because the work was amazing. The work that my employees did was spectacular, so I looked spectacular. I didn't have to be the best one in the building. I loved hiring people that were better than me. But can your personal life really be used as an excuse? I didn't say it was a good excuse. I said it was an excuse. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying, Soph. I never said what my 8th grade teacher did was okay. I just said that this is the reason why I believe she did it. So no, I don't think that using your personal life as an excuse. Right? So there's a phrase. Where's the phrase? I'm gonna read a phrase to you. Let me pull it up here real quick, because it's a good one. So listen now. This is the phrase. A transformed you will result in a transformed world, life, and family. So self, for your boss, for my 8th grade teacher, instead of coming to work that day, reality, take the day off. You're clearly not okay. Instead of coming to work, they should have stayed home and got better. So take my employee. This was at Coca-Cola. Take my employee that I wanted to fire so bad. This forklift guy was the worst. Miserable guy. And I got him verbal written warning, 1-day suspension, 3-day suspension, 5-day suspension. I was just, come on, one more thing, I can fire this guy. Because that was the union that we had. We had to go through these steps to get to termination. I got through all the steps. Took me a year and a half. Finally got to the 6th stinking step. Yeah, thanks for stepping in, Cellar Bear. Appreciate you, buddy. We'll hopefully see you next Monday, too. Or I'll see you in the other streams anyways. Take it easy, Celery. So I finally get to the 6th step, and this guy, I got him. You know, one of the other supervisors comes to me and says, yep, so-and-so is over there doing that thing again. You can get him. So, yeah, perfect. I already got the letter typed up. I pull it out, got it on my desk. I say to the union steward, go get the guy. He goes, gets the guy, brings him in my office, and this guy is angry, haggard looking, not very, kind of like the half-baked beard I got going here. And as I'm about to just lay into this guy and say, I've been telling you for years, get your act together, and now finally I got you, But instead of doing that, what I say is, I have a little heart check. And I looked at the guy, big long pause, and I say, bro, what's going on? What are you doing? And I said to him, why are we here? And this big, angry, really grumpy looking guy, you just see this tenseness, and suddenly you just see his shoulders sink. His head goes down, and tears start to come down his face. Union steward looks at me. He's like, what the heck? And I said, I lipped it to the steward. I said, give us a minute. Step out. Give us a minute. So the union steward normally would never do that. But in this case, he's like, yeah, okay, no problem. Steps out of my office. And I just said to the guy, what's going on? What are you doing? Why are we here? Like, what, how can I help you? Was my next and last phrase before he took over the conversation. And as soon as I said, how can I help you? That's when he spilled his guts and said, my wife is cheating on me, blah, blah, blah. All that to say, Solf, when he was done, I didn't fire him. And the next thing I did was to give him 3 months off of work. Why? Because he needed to figure out what was going on in his life. He needed to figure out his family. So he saved his job, his $40 an hour job. I didn't pay him full price, but I gave him money, so he wasn't without pay for 3 months. Came to an agreement with the union on this because it was a special, very special case. But I gave him 3 months to go get his crap figured out. His daughter had the baby, got his son in rehab. I can't remember whether he left his wife or his wife left. I think the wife left him. I know they didn't reconcile either way, but it gave him space to figure that out. The guy came back to work after 3 months. He continued in therapy, went to counseling apparently. Came back and was one of the best employees I ever had. Was able to figure all that crap out. And suddenly, because he realized, holy crap, Fernandez actually has my best interest at heart, actually cares about me, I can now trust him. And I'll be honest with you, it was a huge learning lesson. It was really the pivotal moment for me in this whole life, because that was a long time ago. That was 20 plus years ago. Point in my life when I realized that there's some value to this trust thing. It was really where I started to clue in on, wait a second, something happens. There's more to work than just work. That these are people. And my job is to help people transform into something other than what they currently believe possible. Because the reality is, and our kids are here at Rise Above, are a prime example of this. Most of the kids that are here believe that this is all that will ever be. They don't believe there is another option. I'm a bad kid, so I'm always going to be a bad kid. I'm poor, so I'm always going to be poor. Nobody in my family has ever gone to college, university, or ever had a good job, so I'm never going to go to college, university, or have a good job. And again, I don't want to give the impression or make the assumption that the only way you get a good job is to go to college, university. That's absolutely not the case. But people making assumptions, right? Particularly our students here. So, I mean, it's important that as you have the conversation about transformation, you understand that it starts with you, in that you have to make a conscious decision, self, to do something different. Your defining moment might be, I'm quitting this job. Your defining moment might be, I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to walk into her office and I'm going to say, blah. But it's got to be productive. It's got to be constructive. It's got to be genuine and out of a heart of, I want to make this situation better. Because if it's not, you're just going to perpetuate whatever the issue is that you're having, right? So that's important that you understand. And you have to be resigned to the fact that whatever you do in that instance, the outcome may be completely out of your control. So she might explode at you for even coming into the office and having that conversation. The defining moment might be she fires you. If done properly, I mean, there was no legal grounds for termination in that conversation. I mean, that gets into a whole legal thing, but that's an off-bar conversation. But the idea there is it's going to be a defining moment. She is either going to have a tremendous amount of respect for you at that point because you stood your ground and verified who you were, and what you were capable of, and indeed what you wanted to accomplish as an employee. And two, it may give her the opportunity to go the complete opposite way. Say, this young riffraff son of a gun comes in my office and tries to tell me. Again, you may not have went in there and tried to tell her anything, but again, she may not be ready to transform yet. Right? So the person you're trying to win over also has to be in a state of transformation to a point where they're willing to accept that you are a good employee, that you're not that guy from before, right? You're not that experience that she had a year and a half, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 25 years ago with John Doe. Because we all of us are a collection of our experiences. Transformation is when we take those collective experiences, define a new path for ourselves, because we say our experiences have shown that this is not good. And you don't be deceived. You know when something is good and you know when something is bad. Unless there's something socially, emotionally, medically wrong with you, we all have this little check inside of us that says this is not good. If you're honest with yourself long enough, you will understand what I'm talking about. We all have that little check in our spirit when we go to do that thing where we say we shouldn't be doing this. Welcome back, Shimode. Even as little kids, you watch a little kid, even a little 4 or 5-year-old knows when they're about to do something they shouldn't do. How much more as an adult do we know when we're about to embark on a journey that we know isn't healthy for us? And it's in those moments when you are transformed. It's in those moments that you have defining moments. When you step into a place, when you know that, when you say to yourself, this is not okay. I know this is not right. And this is how I'm going to make it different this time. Right? So I'm going to move my camera a little bit. Which way do I want to move it? That way? That way. Yeah. Because, I don't know. That's where the real meat of this comes from. That's where real transformation happens, is when you realize that I need to be honest with myself and say I need to go a different way. Because when I don't know, people pay attention. You don't think people are watching? Try it. More people are watching than you think. Guaranteed. Where you think one or two are watching, I guarantee you there are dozens. It's almost like mice. Where you think there's only one mouse running around and you catch them in your little mouse trap, I guarantee you there's 20 of those little buggers running around. There's never just one. People are always paying attention to what you're doing. People are always waiting to see what you're going to do next. And so the feedback you're getting is a prime example of that. Because she's just watching and waiting. Even if you're doing it mostly right, she is going to hone in on that negative thing every time. Because she is watching like a hawk. Just waiting. And that's the problem when somebody has lost trust. And again, not necessarily you. Person before you did it, but she is identifying you as that person. So, Man Panic, where you been, buddy? Oh, good timing, Jimode. How was your weekend? How's everyone's weekend, anyways? Everyone stay in town, or did everyone travel? I traveled a little bit. Figured out some major issues with my Jeep. Pretty happy about that. So now I'm just waiting on parts. Speaking of parts, let me look up, see where everything's at. I gotta order some parts. I'm trying to find a part for my Jeep. I gotta see if I can find a particular cheap part. Well, not so cheap part. It's like $150 for this one part, and I'm dreading having to find it and consequently pay for it. Ooh, that's one thing I didn't get to do a lot this year is bonfires. We did so much traveling and moving around and changing schools and a lot of extra stuff here at Rise Above that we didn't do the year before, and didn't get to have any s'mores. I don't think I had a single s'more this summer. How sad is that? Oh, I did D&D on Saturday too? Nice. Yeah, we went, so the 2nd and the 5th are my son and daughter's birthdays of October. In October, I should say. And we celebrated them both last night. Went for dinner with all of our kids and my son-in-law and my son-in-law's parents came down. So it was good. We went for pizza at a place called Claybon's in town. They have like a deep dish and a thin crust style pizza. So we had a bit of each, and it's kind of good. I had a bad toothache, a feeling, ouch. When you get into the dentist, if there's a pain, I mean, you can punch me in the face, you can stick me with needles, you can kick me in the shins, man. You give me a toothache, I cry like a little baby. I can't do tooth pain. Oh, it's the worst, man. There's just no getting around it. Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. Mouth pain. I'll be thinking about you, brother. When are you getting it fixed? You get an appointment time at least, so you can have something to look forward to. Yeah, I know. That's one thing I thankfully have been blessed with. I haven't had a whole lot of tooth issues in my life. For an old fart like me, that's pretty decent. Wednesday. Ooh, that's still It's close, but it's not close enough, eh? Whew, boy, oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the type of transformation I don't want to have to go through. Yeah, a lot of that stuff is genetic, age mode. You don't think about it sometimes. You think about genetics being like hair color and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, you can inherit all that stuff too. But yeah, and it's the one thing I'm thankful for is I've got pretty good genetics. You ready to knock it out yourself? Do they give you something at least to put on it, or can you? Because sometimes there's that wax stuff you can throw in there, eh? It's that soft. So basically, my job was taking care of all the paperwork for the inscription of unemployed people to our job center. No one except that coworker complained about my. Sometimes I had 5 people case to take care at the same time, but none of them ever had to report my mistakes, behavior, because at the end, yeah. And again, that as soon as I was reading what you're saying, like I said before, that is 100% her. I firmly believe you probably were doing everything exactly right. Well within your job description, well within your, your parameter of responsibility. That your attitude was probably good. Like I said, knowing you just from what I know of you here, you've always been awesome and very happy-go-lucky. So it would surprise me if you were anything but that elsewhere. So, and that's why as soon as I was reading what you were saying, I was like, yep, I know exactly what's going on there. It's either something socially is going on with her, or she had a really horrible experience with whoever was doing your job before. So, Soph is a great guy. Yeah, no problem. But I mean, it doesn't make it any better, though. I wish, Soph, I could say to you there's a magic cure for that type of a manager, but there's really not. I mean, you just got to continue to plug away. The only thing you can do is, but I mean, what I was going to say, the only thing you can do is to go and sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation with her and tell her what you think is, or how you feel, right? You can't tell her what to do differently because she'll never respond to that. But what you can do is just tell her how you feel. But if she's your superior, if she's your boss, you better go in prepared to resign. I mean, again, I'm assuming you don't work there anymore, but I'm giving you the scenario that if you were in that spot again, this is, or for anybody else that's watching, it's one of those situations where if you go in to have that conversation, you better have a resignation letter going already, another job lined up possibility, or be in a space where you don't need a job right away and you can kind of go on the job hunt, and be prepared for her to say very shortly after that conversation that, sorry, this just isn't working, you're fired. So, or the miraculous could happen and she could come alongside you and say, oh, I'm so glad we had this conversation. I totally misunderstood you, blah, blah, blah. I thought you were just like so-and-so that was here before. That guy was a butthead, blah, blah, But there's realities to that because, you're dealing with people. Often we lose sight of our bosses as people, our teachers as people, and things of that nature. So that's we had a saying. I won't say it on stream, but we had a saying before that really highlighted how normal everybody is, and that we all have the same problems in our lives. They may look slightly different each time, but they're basically all the same thing. So, but anyways, that's all I got. I was pretty happy. I think transformation is one of the most underrated things in our repertoire, and I think that most people don't look to transformation and this idea of defining moments often enough. It's because we're horrible goal setters. We're so content where we are very often, even if it's a crappy spot. We're just content, and that's we shouldn't be. We should never be content. Never be okay with what's in front of you and who's in front of you. No offense. Always want more. And I don't mean more stuff. What I'm saying is strive for better. Better relationships. Better interactions. Right? Because striving for a red Ferrari, that's only fun until you get the red Ferrari. As soon as you get the red Ferrari, it's boring a week and a half later. Truth. It's the same. Every time you strive. When you make goals like that, all you do is you get to the goal, you attain it, and then you got to make something bigger. So yeah, you get a red Ferrari. Now what? Okay, now we got to strive for a 48-foot yacht that costs $17 billion. So you get the $17 billion yacht. Now what? And that's when life sucks. Because you get your goal and you never feel fulfilled by it. So that's why goals should never be materialistic. It should always be personal goals that are you, physical, you. Physically, like it could be like a weightlifting, for me, an exercise goal. Could be an educational goal, take Celery Bear into account, get my degree. It should never be, you got to get that new whatever. Those are not good goals. Doesn't mean you can't set those goals. Just know that they're not going to give you bear the fruit that you want them to bear. Transformation starts with trust. If you want people around you to see you in a different light, if you want to strive for new levels of either work or relationships or whatever it is, strive to be trusted. Relationships excel when trust exists. You don't like being micromanaged? Be the most trustworthy person in your workplace. If you don't know how to do something, say, I don't know how to do it. Show me how to do it better. That statement breeds trust. I don't know. If I don't know, I'll be the first person to say, I don't know. And when you hear me say, I don't know, I legitimately don't know. Because if I know, I'll tell you. You can trust me when I say I don't know. Because I ain't afraid of that phrase. I don't think it's a bad thing to say I don't know. I think it's an amazing phrase. It's what I would call a teaching moment. Teach me. But Self, I think that's, are you still there, Self? Are you still working for that place, or are you someplace else? I didn't necessarily catch that earlier. Spectre, what are you saying? I wanted to write a book about things that happened in my life growing up and being knocked down so many times. Pressure, brother. Huh. And it's funny, Inspector, because my brother's the exact same way. If I was to say to him, hey, I want to write a book about our past. I want to write a book about the mistakes that you and I both made as young kids. Things I did to you, things you did to me that were wrong, that I hope that we've both learned from, and because I wanted to help others. I think if I approached my brother, I would get the exact same response, man. I honestly think that without hesitation, my brother would say, hell no, you ain't doing that. You either change my name, you change your name, you use a pseudonym or whatever. He would never allow me to use our, right? Because he's embarrassed of it. I'm an open book, man. I'll tell you anything. Every mistake I made is laid bare. Why? Because it's no different than me going to class and learning something. I'm learning from somebody else's mistakes is all I'm doing. You want to know how you learn how to do that math problem? Because somebody else wrestled with it for 20 years to figure out how to do that math problem. They made a billion mistakes. You know how you be a mechanic? Because somebody else sat there and wrestled with how to make that engine for a decade before they finally figured it out. Yeah, and I'm not saying to not respect their thing, but I would say go ahead, write the book anyways. There's a way around that, right? So you can use pseudonyms. You can change the names to protect the innocent, and so to speak, right? That's a thing. I gotta stop saying right. I say right a lot. I'm gonna create a right emoji, so you guys can just plug it in there every time I say right. So I mean, I say write the book. If you got it in you, I know a lady that for years has felt called to write a children's book about using ballet as a thing because she was big into ballet, and she's held off, and it's just not the right time. Just not the right time. Just change it a bit. You don't have to use your brother's name. You don't have to use your family name. You can slightly change the stories with the same. But that'd be awesome, bro. Write the book. Not many people can say they sat down and wrote out their life like that. Is that solved? So I had a discussion with her and nothing changed. My coworker told her to treat me like everyone else. I talked about it with your manager. He said a restructuring, redefining, reminding everyone roles would fix the situation, but nothing changed either. She was considered equal. And that quote unquote spoiled brat, there's your thing right there. That's the thing. If she said that, if that's an actual quote, I guarantee you that's what she encountered, another spoiled brat somewhere, and you reminded her of that spoiled brat. And so she's treating you like that other person. So, and you're right. She'll never change. She has to. Now she's at a point where she has to change. So you either got to live with it, continue to do the best that you can do in that environment, or you got to change situations. Because that would be miserable. Yeah. That's so I agree. Shimo, that's so right. Yeah. Oh, it's a job contract. Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, Soph, I would do the same thing. Interact when you got to interact, and, beat her over the head with kindness. That's my, kind of my approach. I had an employee one time that worked for me that I knew did not like me. We had completely different viewpoints on a lot of things. But she was a subordinate to me, so she had no choice but to interact with me. But I tell you, she would have never thought, I would hope, she would have never thought in a million years that I couldn't stand her. I talked to her all the time. I knew she was an expert in her field. I left her alone and let her do her job. Didn't micromanage her because, I hired her for a reason. I knew she was good at what she could do. She gave me no reason to micromanage her, but I couldn't stand her personality type. Her viewpoints were not mine. But I would never do to her what this person did to you, so that's bad. Things happened to him that didn't happen to me because at 5 I knew it was wrong. Yeah. Well, if you have, I would say inspect it, write anything that you have firsthand knowledge of in that situation, I would write about. If you don't have firsthand knowledge of it, if it's conjecture or hearsay, I would avoid that kind of stuff. But either way, I get told constantly to write a book, my life story, and particularly the past few years, because people think for whatever reason what we're doing here at Rise Above is kind of a big deal. The results that we've had and the life-changing stuff. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you guys about. Let me read one of our students wrote a letter. I want to read this letter to you guys if I can find it. I got to pull up my email. Hold on. Story time. I hope I can find it. Oh, here it is here. So one of the things that we're doing different this year, we're doing some different work with our middle schoolers. And we have permission. The student gave us permission to share this with everybody and to publicly use some of this information. But she didn't know this prior to writing it. She found out after it was written and we kind of read her work. But she had to do an English assignment where she had to write a story about her life, and she chose to write about her experience coming to Rise Above. And this is a quote, direct quote from her. It's a quote unquote. Mom, I don't want to go to that school, meaning Rise Above. At first, I really did not want to go to Rise Above, but it's actually been a big help. Coming to Rise Above has been a big step in my school life. At my old school, there were a lot of problems between me and other students. I had a lot of trouble focusing because of all the distractions. I tried going to many other schools, but I did not really like my options. Then my counselor from my old school, Mr. Bloom, told my mom about Rise Above. I still did not want to go, but it was the best choice for me. When I first got there, I was still unsure if it would work for me or not, but it has. And one reason why it has is because the environment is smaller. It's so much easier to focus. Since there is less students and less noise, I get much more work done than I did at my old school. Also, it's easier to get the help that I need. Coming to Rise Above has really helped me because of these reasons, and I think it will be that I will be back to school in no time. End quote. This is a 7th grade student, a little young lady who came in here very a little standoffish, but in time learned to trust. We kept our word. We, even when bad days were had, we came alongside, helped her, all that kind of stuff. And here's a young lady that's been here for 3 weeks, 3.5-ish weeks, and now sees this as a huge benefit. That's pretty awesome. Like that kind of stuff there is the epitome of why we do what we do. Morg, babe. What's up, Morg? Why are you typing Morg for yourself? Do I come into chat and just go, Neil? How you doing, Morgan? How was your weekend, kiddo? Hopefully it was good. Now I gotta do it. Hi. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where there's a person there that has decided to change. She's decided, but again, it's a defining moment for her. Coming here was a defining moment. It was a pivotal thing where, as kind of unsure as she was about the transition to here, she stepped into it. Thankfully, had a little bit of an open mind, and since then has started to do the things that she needs to do to become a different person, to be transformed, to have more than just a single defining moment, but to have many. And there's another young man. I'm trying to convince him to come on stream. He initially said yes, and now he's kind of backed off. He's getting scared. Y'all have scared him away. But I'm hoping to get him on here at some point. But Morgan, are you working? Are you at school? What are you doing? Because you're late. I mean, you're super late. You're like an hour and 40 minutes late. I mean, I forgive you, but we're pretty much done. We got like 5 minutes, 10 minutes left here. And it was great. It was a good stream. I'm just saying. I mean, it was pretty awesome. Did all the things with the board and made sound work, and it was awesome. I mean, Jamode's all right too, but you got back from school. Fantastic. How was class? Yeah. I mean, Inspector, that's one of the things I thought about doing too, is just getting them in here and just have them sit there and not even really talk to them. Just put the mic in front of them, have it on, not even really tell them it's on, just talk. And I guarantee this is a kid that would just suddenly start talking. First, it would just feel comfortable after, a minute. And I'm sure I'd say something that would spark them to chatter up. Ooh, 96. I'm hoping it was out of 100, not out of like 345 or something like that. Tell me it was out of 100. Nice. 100 is always good when you get the 96s. That is decent for sure. Is that a norm for you? Is that like are you a 96 type of girl or what? Or are you normally like a 78 type of person? Well, Soph, that's a good question. So school bullying has kind of morphed over the years. So school bullying back in the day, when bullying became a popular phrase, that Morgan, that doesn't surprise me one bit that you're a 4.0 kid at all. Knowing what I know about you, not one bit. So bullying used to look like, you'd walk by a kid in school, you knock his books out of his hands, or you check him into the locker, or you call him names, or you exclude him from stuff, or, you do things to embarrass him or her, whatever the case is. Bullying has transformed from that to social media. So bullying now, in the response to bullying, because this is the other part, half of our kids come to us because of this, So bullying now is some kid going on his phone, tweeting or Facebook or whatever the Snapchat the kids use, and doing something to embarrass the other student, talking about how stupid they are, what a bad sports player they are, whatever it is. Talking about their boyfriend or their girlfriend, or trying to make them look bad or dumb, or what clothes they wear. It's the same thing, but it's all done here. The difference between this and the old system of bullying is whoever was in the hallway would experience it. Whoever was in the hallway would see you knock the books out of Jimmy's hands, or, or watch you, beat up this guy in gym class or whatever. Embarrass him in the locker room at, whatever. Now with social media, it's not those 5 or 6, 10 kids. Now it's hundreds. It's literally the whole school. And not only is that whole school, now it gets retweeted and it gets reposted and shared and liked. And now kids from other districts. So now you can't even escape it. You can't even go to another school now and say, you know what, I just need to get away from you, so I'm going to go to this other school and relive my life. Because that was the thing. Sometimes we still do this today, where we say to a kid, we're going to get you out of that environment. We're going to put you in the school next to your county to get you a fresh start. That is almost impossible to do now because of social media. Because now when you move schools, now someone's on social media saying, so-and-so left the district and they've gone to blah, so make sure you guys get them over there. And what's happened, is these kids, because you get bullied back in the day, there's a breaking point for you. You're either going to take a swing at this kid or something else. So when I was in school, you'd either take a swing at the kid or you went home and you hurt yourself. But every suicide in my school was a direct result of what we would now call bullying. Now we still have that drastic result, but we now have a response. So now, because this is so easy to do, now we have kids, because we have very much a video game culture. It is what it is. We're on Twitter, for crying out loud. We have a video game culture where everything shoots something. So now talking about guns and saying I'm going to shoot you is normal. It's part of the normal conversation. Oh, I just killed that guy. How many times you watch, and that's what everyone says on stream. I have clips of it. And so they go on this and they tweet, tomorrow is going to be different. Or tomorrow I'm going to come in there and I'm going to shoot you. Or I'm going to bring a gun to school and we'll see who's the tougher, whatever. Well, that, two problems with that. One, you're going to get a lot of attention really fast. And now the victim is getting kicked out of school. Why? Because you just broke a federal law called uttering a terroristic threat. In last year, 50% of the students at Rise Above were here for this. They uttered a terroristic threat on their phone where they said, tomorrow is going to be different. Nobody takes a swing anymore. Inspector Gadget? Nobody. It's too hard. It's too much work. I can do this from my bedroom. This is easy. And it's become too easy to talk here than here. That's why the kid doesn't want to come on stream with me, because they don't know how to communicate. We've lost the art of communication with our kids. So instead of saying, come here, you, we're going to figure this out right now. As you just said, even with a swing, it's culturally different. Instead of saying, you, come here, we're talking about this right now, which is what used to happen. It used to be that another kid would step in for the kid that's being bullied and say, come on, stop picking on him. And they'd get in there and they'd take on the tough guy. It doesn't happen anymore. Now you get a Twitter war until finally somebody gives or nobody gives. And suddenly pictures are getting posted of someone's girlfriend and God knows what else. I don't say that facetiously. That's a big deal. That's a big thing. Happens all the time. Mr. Potato Chip, thank you for the follow. Didn't show up on the screen for some reason, but we got to follow. Yeah, and you know what, Jamod, I say that the kids that we have had on stream have always done really good. Because they all have unrealized potential. They all think, they all come in believing something of themselves. And it takes months for us to convince them of what they're actually capable of. Is that, Inspector? You had the same issue with your daughter? She was being picked on all the time. Yeah. That's tough. And I would say almost 100% of our kids, 90% of our kids don't have the same last name. It's becoming prevalent, at least in our community. Yep. Yep. And so was it for me. You know when high school got good for me? And then, I'm just going to speak honestly. High school got good for me when people feared me. Something happened in high school with me. Anyone know? Think about my past. What happened to me in high school? Yeah, I lost all my friends in high school. Until my senior year. You know how I got all my friends? Well, I say friends. They weren't friends. I don't talk to a single person from high school. When I joined the military, it's the same time I started lifting weights like crazy. And literally, when people realized that I was a man to be reckoned with, suddenly they stopped talking about me. Suddenly they stopped bullying me. As Inspector Gadget said, I took the swing. I didn't have to take the literal swing, but they thought I was gonna. I'm not saying that's right, but that was the reality. That was what won the day in the 80s and early 90s. I think I graduated in 94, 95. Is that right? Oh my gosh. Am I that old? Blech. Almost puked a little bit. But the reality, I was that kid. I had 2 friends in high school. Like legit friends. I didn't hang around. I wasn't the cool guy that sat at the euchre table or, at lunchtime. I never went in the lunchroom. Never went in the lunchroom. Never went in the lunchroom. That was a scary place. And it's funny you say that, Inspector. I think about it all the time. I would love to go back. And my mom still live in my hometown. And I go to visit, and I dread bumping into people that I know from high school. I don't even think I'd recognize them if I saw them anyways, but I dread bumping into them. Sort of. Because I don't think anybody would recognize me, for one. And two, I guarantee nobody thought that I would ever be anything. If I was to ever go to a family reunion, and I never will, to a family reunion, to a school reunion, I don't think, and again, like I said, I don't think I'll ever go to, I know for a fact I will never go to a school reunion. I would probably be the one that everyone would like, yeah, you're the least expected to do X, Y, Z. Because I guarantee nobody in school ever thought I would be an ordained minister, for one, let alone be VPs for large multinational companies, or 7 of my own businesses, or run a nonprofit this size in another country. I mean, I guarantee everybody thought I was just going to be a butthead. You had friends from the 6th grade, the 11th grade, everything changed, and she spread. Yeah, but that's the thing. So that, Morgan, you weren't here for that part. I talked earlier about how there's a shift. There's something that happens to us around between 10 and 12, age 10 and 12, where we go from everything's roses and I can hate you one day, but I forget about it quickly. And the next day you can be my best friend again, But when you get around 12, 13, 14 in that range, everybody's brain kind of shuts off and suddenly we remember everything. And I talked about it from the perspective of mothers and fathers earlier, how as kids our parents can abuse us literally in that age range. And when we're done crying, we love our parents again. But at 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there, something clicks and we hold on to that anger. It doesn't go away as quickly and easily anymore. And so it's kind of the same thing. Those people that in 6th grade were your friends and then suddenly changed in 11th grade is because something in them changed. Suddenly popularity was important, right? At that point, I knew how to fight, so I went around sticking up for others. Yeah, my son, who is a rail, and I love he's a great kid. He's a great soccer player, but he's a skinny guy. And he still, to this day, is a defender of the weak. I don't know where, I know he gets it from, but I mean, I don't know where he gets it from because I've never told him. But, so here in France, we don't talk about that much about school bullying. It's not in the media. It's not in our movies. People are still experiencing some exclusion. And I would even go a little further because French have and I say this with sincerity. So please don't take it wrong. Being Canadian, French Canadian is not like European French at all. But French in general, I've experienced because I know both, and correct me, Soph, have a lot of pride. A lot of pride in nationality and in being French. And I'm curious on your perspective if you think that has anything to do with what you're talking about. But harassing someone is just not a thing here amongst youth. I wonder, like I said, I don't know. I wonder if that's part of that. At the time I'm watching foreign movies and TV shows, mostly from Japan, anime, and this is a redundant topic. It's big in Japan. Shaming is huge in China and Japan. My sister-in-law, my brother's in-law's wife she came here to go to university to get her master's and doctoral in mathematics. And we talk about this stuff all the time. She's awesome to talk to. She's super, super smart girl. The last part of your statement there I want to come back to too. But anyways, the point is she still culturally tries to keep up. She's very trendy. And she's always trying to keep up with her workmates. She's got to have the latest handbag, the latest shoes, the latest whatever, because she's got to be cool like her workmates. Crazy thing until that family took me in. You're talking about this at 12, right, Inspector, what you're talking about? So, Soph, let's go back to your point. It's a redundant topic, and that might just be my opinion, but the more you bring it back, the topic to the table, if it's criticized, the more chances it become a common thing. Sometimes the less credit you give a bad thing. That's a yes and no for me. I agree with that. Okay, glad I was right on. I just want to make sure I remember stuff right, Inspector. So there are things that need to be talked about. As long as it's really there. But the tragedy in North America, I shouldn't say Western cultures, is people have made a living off of keeping certain things in public media. So we'll stick with bullying. So if bullying didn't actually exist to the degree that we say it exists, just know at one time it did exist to that certain degree. And if I don't keep it in the spotlight, if I don't keep it as this is the worst thing, we got to keep this going, I'm going to lose my job. And so what people have done is they've made a career out of monopolizing victims. As long as you're a victim, I can be a victim advocate. That'd be like me manufacturing expelled students. I need expelled students so that I can have a job. So I've got to go get expelled students. How do I get expelled students? I have to make the public think that there's more expelled students than there actually is, so people want to keep donating. If you keep thinking there's tons of expelled students, even when there's not, I think this happens a lot with racism. My opinion is skewed because I'm Canadian. And the objectivity of racism doesn't come up in the media in Canada the way it comes up here, although Justin Trudeau would like to make you think that it does. Nationalism is not huge. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, I get that. I just know that, so for example, Diablo, welcome back.
Everything's great. Everything is awesome.
Thank you for coming back, Diablo. Appreciate you, buddy. 3 whole months. I'm sure that's the gestation for some amazing creature that only gives birth after 3 months. Figure it out. That'll be great. Great funny joke in there somewhere. But yes, I mean, it's a 50-50 split. So when you talk about American media having this insatiable appetite for bullying and racism's the other big one, right? So it's not fair to say that racism doesn't exist, because it absolutely exists all over the world. It's unfair to say that that racism in America is the worst, because it's not. If you've traveled anywhere in the world, and I've traveled to a lot of places, I can tell you that, oh my gosh. Ooh, thank you, Shimode. Very good. Racism in most of the world is far worse than it will ever be in North America. We just talk about it more, as Soph so eloquently pointed out. So, Google may have failed you. No, come. See, now, Shimode, we've talked about this whole lying thing before, because we all know, the Googles don't fail. The Googles are the truths. Just saying. No conspiracy theories there. No fixing of numbers, I'm sure. A leopard is only 93 days, really? Yeah, I didn't know that. That seems like uber short. That's a little kitty. Kitties are only so if a leopard's only 93 days, Puma is my favorite article of clothing. I wear the Pumas all the time. I don't know. Oh, I do. I was going to say I don't have them on right now, but I do. Does it say Puma on there? Puma. My favorite shoes right here. Puma. My little racing shoes. See my little Puma? I've had these shoes forever, and they're so comfortable. They like perfectly fitted to my feet. I love them. Now my studio stinks. Great, guys. Thanks. I blame Jamote. Now I got to tie my shoe back up. Google is the truth? I don't agree with that statement. Google is the absolute truth. Just ask them. They'll tell you. I accept the blame. Skynet is the one and only truth. Skynet is everywhere in Europe, especially on like soccer jerseys and stuff. I see Skynet everywhere. True story. I went to Benfica and Real Madrid friendly in Portugal. I think I might have told this story. And I wore the wrong color jersey. In Portugal, there's Benfica and poop. I forget. What's the Benfica and Portugal soccer teams. Does Portugal have a soccer team? I feel, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I'm Googling it right now. What? Benfica? In Lisboa. That's the other one. So anyways, my point is I wore the other team's colors to the Benfica game. I wore green when I should have wore red. I was warned. They literally spent 120 euros to buy me the proper jersey. My guests, my hosts, went to the store and bought me a 120 euro jersey, Benfica jersey, to wear into the stadium because they were fearful for my life. Soccer culture. Crazy. And that's why I got my kids into it. Yeah. Absolute craziness. Anyways, possum is only 12 days. You know why? You ever watch it? Okay. You've all watched the animal shows, so don't be grossed out by this. You ever watch a possum give birth? That little sucker is this big. It's like a grain of rice when he gives birth. Because a possum is a pouch animal. Right? Yeah. Because it's not even a full-born, full-developed little critter. They're like it's like a little, I don't know, amoeba. It's freaking creepy. The little thing wiggles out of there like a little maggot. Look at it. It's just like my finger. Wiggles out looking for the little teat. That's a word. I'm allowed to say that on stream. That's not swearing. It's a teat. It wiggles up there and it latches onto that little sucker and it don't let go for several months. And then then the rest of the gestation happens externally. Now, if that isn't creepy, to me, that's the greatest excuse against evolution on the planet. Because what evolutionary process says, you know what? I bet you it would be good if, 12 days into the gestation period, we just kicked that little sucker out of there. Let him randomly crawl up the fur and look for that one single teat. And then once you find it, just latch on. It'll be all right. I'm sure it'll be great. Climate's perfect. I'm sure there's no other infectionary type things that'll get you. And once you're outside, you latch onto that little sucker. You wait a couple months, you'll be good. Last, 3, 4, 17 trimesters, you just hang out. Come on. That's a perfect, intelligent design thing. Because only somebody that thought about that for a minute is going to make that. Because the way evolution would work, they'd kill all those little suckers off in a heartbeat. And you'd know kangaroos wouldn't even exist. Marsupials. That's what they're called. They'd be extinct. And if I didn't say it already, thank you, Eaton Corp, for sponsoring the stream. You guys rock. Let's do it all on the outside. There you go, Diablo. I couldn't imagine my wife come home one day saying, you know what, Neil? I think I'm going to have this sucker right now. I'll just latch her onto the teat for the next 9 months. PG, Inspector Gadget. PG. I tell you why I laughed so hard about that, Inspector Gadget. True story. I can't remember how old I was. I was in my early 20s, and I was talking to my grandmother who just passed away a couple years ago. And she was in her late my grandfather was in his late 90s. She was in her late 80s when she passed away. And she told me the story, and I don't know how my dad never told me the story. He talks about it now, but just because he knows my grandmother told on him. But my grandmother, I hope it wasn't my grandfather. My grandmother breastfed my dad until he was over 5 years old. This was in Portugal, where my family's from. My dad was 5 years old, still breastfeeding. Little sketchy. You know you're a little short on the rice in the cabinet when your 5-year-old's still suckling. Just saying. You might want to do some grocery shopping. Introduce the kid to peanut butter, would you? Here. Have a sandwich. Oh, the laughter in my house when my grandmother told that story. Priceless. Priceless. Yep. That's going to be a good hunt camp story one of these days when all the guys are listening. Just wait for my opportunity when my dad tries to take a dig at me. Oh, yeah. That'll be a precious little jewel to hold on to. Well, and he was only child. And so this is kind of the analogy, the reality of why I think all that happened. My grandmother's first child, which was a daughter, died after, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. She was a 5 or 6 month old child. She died. They lived in a very, very rural part of Portugal. No running water, that kind of thing. And when my dad was born, I think she was just like in a preserve this child mode. So to the day she died, she sacrificed everything for my dad. He was the ultimate, and still is the ultimate spoiled brat. Well, not ultimate, the epitome of the spoiled brat. Oh, is that so? That you're talking about your 19-year-old stepson, spoiled brat. Mommy won't let him grow up. Wow, yeah. That's a 19-year-old child is hard to deal with. I am, as a dad, me personally, I am absolute in very few things. But one thing I am absolute in is the same thing I'm absolute in here at Rise Above. And I think that's one of the reasons why Rise Above runs well, is the fact that I am the absolute authority. What I say goes, even if I say something today and then say it differently tomorrow. That's imperative. There needs, especially in a kid, even a 19-year-old's life, they need to know that one person is in control no matter what. This is way off topic stream, but hey, why not? Like, my kids know when I get angry on something and I say, absolutely, this is the way it's going to be, the conversation stops. But my kids also know that if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong and I'll apologize. My boys fear the hammer. I don't know why. They never get it. No, I'm lucky. I got great kids. I got 3 great kids. My daughter's the oldest. I got the two boys. telling you, sports, man. Keep your kids in sports as much as possible. Don't run them ragged, but keep them a single sport kid. And teach you sacrifice, team, not me all the time, right? But anyways, all right. It's been over 2 hours. I got to get out of here. You guys are bugging me. I need to de-stress. Thank you to Mr. Soggy Waffles for the 900 bits today. Diablo. Apparently I have died. Soggy, thank you for the 900 bits. Jamode. Diablo, thank you for the resubs. You guys are fantabulous. Some might even say amazing. I say decent. And I need topics. Y'all are failing me on the topic front. The little doohickey down below. Boop. Down there. Click it. Give me topic ideas. I'm going to do another exercise stream where I'm not going to do the exercises. Thanks, Shimon. But I'm going to do another topic on, it's called the FAT program. PHAT. Not fat as an FAT. But it's just a different style. It's more for an intermediate style lifter, exercise person. I'm going to talk about that style versus others. Might do that next week. Not sure. Unless I get a good topic as Jamode brainstorms. I'm not totally out of topics, but I'm getting there. So any help would be good. I'm thinking about revisiting a couple of topics that we kind of only got half through. Because I said I would, and I never did. Or I haven't yet. So, yeah, we'll go from there. Anyways, appreciate all you guys. Always have, always will. And I know that, yeah, I got to pick who I want to raid or host. Who we want to go to? You want to go to Air Max? I love Air Max. Air Max is streaming right now, isn't he? Let's go say hi to Air Max. Okay, folks, don't forget, it's Monday. It's chest day today. Chest and arms. Do some upper body work. Grab some soup cans. Do some curls. Do some push-ups. Push-ups are always good for you. Reminder to all you guys and girls that if you ever want to chat, you know how to get in touch with me through Discord or Whisper. And let me know if you have any questions, concerns, just want to chat about the stuff you're struggling with. I'm not always the guy with the answers, but I'm always the guy with the ear, and I'm willing to be a part of that conversation with you and just to give you a venting grounds, right? That's always something that is helpful to people. So don't be afraid. Give me a shout. On that note, I will see you guys definitely next Monday with a new topic, and possibly this week. I haven't decided yet. It depends. I think the off stream, like the workout stream, I'm going to do kind of not on my regular Monday thing. So push-ups first. I have to train for some push-ups apparently. Yes, you do. Push-ups are easy. You just need practice. It's one of those things that if you train your body to do it, it's the little muscles that make it hard. You got to train your little muscles to do the work. So, okay. All right, folks. Have a good week. We'll see you guys all later in the week and kind of go from there. Peace out, people.